Welcome to the Global News Podcast on YouTube, where we go behind the headlines to find out more about a story and why it matters. Today, we're looking at an investigation by the BBC into endangered species, which has found that tiger body parts, shark fins and pangolin scales are being openly sold on Facebook. It comes as Interpol announced the results of a global crackdown on the wildlife trade, which led to the seizure of nearly 30,000 live animals. We're joined today by our correspondent, Angus Crawford, who led the investigation. Angus, tell us more.
Well, it's worth saying before we even get going that the trade in endangered species, the illegal trade in endangered species, is probably worth about $23 billion a year. And what law enforcement say is at the top of the tree, you've got drug smuggling, you then got gun smuggling and people smuggling. But fourth in the world is endangered species, the trade in that. And what I found is that it is in part being fueled by social media. How? Well, it was horribly simple, actually. I just set up a fake account on Facebook and started searching and very quickly found, for example, a video, a reel of a tiger in a cage being poked with a stick. And the person who had posted it then offered me a tiger tooth, which he would send to me in the UK for about $280. This was obviously a captive tiger being bred for this. I located a seller in Laos who was trying to offer me pangolin scales. Now, pangolins are actually the world's most trafficked species. Now, a kilo of that, $150. And another user who was trying to sell me shark fin. What the fishermen do is they cut the fin off, they dump the body of the shark back overboard, the shark dies, they then sell the fin to be used in soup. That was $50 for a kilo. Now, Facebook has come back to me and said they don't allow the sale of endangered species on their platforms, and they say they remove the content as soon as they become aware of it.
What do people want these things for?
Well, it's really interesting. Essentially, what you've got is a demand in certain parts of the world for both food and also for traditional, particularly Chinese medicine. So if you take the pangolin, which is this extraordinary animal, you look it up, it's beautiful if you look at it. It's the only animal covered in scales. It's a mammal covered in scales. And it eats ants. It's got no means of defending itself other than rolling up into a ball. Now, why do people want it? Well, in certain parts of the world, particularly in China, it's prized for its scales, which erroneously they think is useful in Chinese traditional medicine to help cure skin diseases. And they also use the flesh for eating and, bizarrely enough, in something called pangolin wine. All of this is a massive trade, a huge trade.
Facebook has said to you that it doesn't allow trade in this sort of things on its platform. You found, though, that they're there. Surely it wouldn't be that difficult to stop it.
Well, Facebook say they have moderation teams. They say they don't allow this stuff. They say that they look for this material. And of course, when it's reported to them, they take it down. But you've got to remember, in some parts of the world, Facebook is the internet. That is how you access all the information you want. That is how you sell what you want. So in certain parts of the world, for example, Laos, Vietnam, everything that is sellable will be placed onto Facebook, and Facebook is playing whack-a-mole. I imagine the moment it takes down one of these posts, another one appears somewhere else. So they face a very, very difficult task. But it's not just on social media. It's also available elsewhere online as well.
Yeah, because you found sellers right here in the UK. This isn't in a place where it's difficult for authorities to crack down. Right here in a westernised, industrialised country.
Yeah, exactly. So I started searching using particularly Mandarin and Cantonese search terms. I don't want anyone else to do this. I'm not giving them any ideas. But very quickly, I found 3 companies in the UK who were openly selling both shark fin and seahorses. Now, seahorses are a protected species. It's a criminal offence to advertise and sell them in this country. But I was able to, having taken legal and editorial policy advice, to buy about $75 worth of seahorses from a company in the UK, which was delivered to me within 2 days. Dead, dried seahorses. I took them to an expert who said that even though I'd only bought 15, that probably represented about 1,000 dead seahorses. Why? Well, because the male of the species carries the babies, and within this 15, there were 5 which were pregnant male seahorses. Each of them carry about 200. The other thing about the specimens I found were they were very small. So it showed they were clearly fishing the youngest, the juveniles. So this was a population, according to the expert I spoke to, that was clearly on the edge, the very edge of collapse.
So what are the authorities doing about it?
Well, the authorities actually today have announced the results of a great big crackdown globally. Interpol, which is the International Police Enforcement Organisation, involved more than 130 countries. They say that in September, October, in a big operation, they managed to seize about 30,000 live specimens of endangered species and a huge amount of meat and other paraphernalia. And in the UK, the Border Force, which covers the Home Office and protects the UK's borders, they say they found about 250 endangered species, including at the port of Dover in the south of England, 2 boa constrictors hidden on the back seat of a car coming through the Channel Tunnel. They say there's been a 73% rise in seizures in the UK compared to 2023. But the fundamental problem is law enforcement has other priorities. This trade is absolutely enormous, and they're fighting against a trade that is bigger than their enforcement powers.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reporting on similar stories pretty much since I've been a journalist, and always the authorities think they've sorted it out, and then another one comes along. Are they ever going to be able to get on top of this?
The basic problem is where there is demand, there is supply. Certain populations want this kind of material. They move around the world, therefore the trade moves with them. And as I said at the beginning, the big problem they have here is that the same kind of criminal gangs that move drugs, guns and people, well, they'll move endangered species because A, they can make a lot of money. For example, at the moment, dried seahorse is worth per kilo exactly the same amount as silver. So think of that as the amount of money you can make, but also the risk. If you're caught transporting drugs, you're going to prison for a very long time, or potentially in some countries facing the death penalty. If you're caught with a lorry load of seahorses, not quite the same kind of penalty. So there's the big problem facing law enforcement, facing all of us, because some of these populations that we're talking about, seahorses, for example, they are edging towards extinction.
Thanks, Angus. Angus Crawford. There'll be more on this story in the Global News podcast, along with other stories from around the world. Subscribe wherever you get your BBC podcasts. You can also subscribe to us here on YouTube. And if you have an idea for a story which you think we should cover, do message us in the comments below.